I can speak for Iceland, and I absolutely think the system like it is here today has nothing to do with democracy. The country is controlled by political parties, and they have their own agenda, which has not very much to do with the good of the general public, which democracy should be about.
In Iceland, failed massively. I was in university when everything crashed, studying law, and I was being taught by some teachers how to evade taxation. You know, teaching little lawyers how not to pay tax was happening in our university, and the university is paid by taxpayers' money. There were people that tried to speak out to say, listen, we're going here in the wrong direction, but they were laughed at, and they were ridiculed, and they were not listened to.
Between the people who own the world, the people who control the world, and the rest of the people, the masses, the people that in some cases feel like they have nothing, they have no say in anything.
I'm a member of the Parliamentary Assembly to NATO, and in my committee on last session there was a report on cybercrime, and it was based on WikiLeaks and Anonymous and various other threats. After the report was introduced, the person responsible for it said that they had drawn the line. Cyber crimes or warfare would be considered an act of war, so they could send in the real world war up against it. And I asked, where is this line? And they said, we don't want to tell, because those that want to use the internet for that sort of purposes will go to the boundaries of this line that we have.
The crash, it was not just because of circumstances in the world, it was also because of circumstances here in Iceland, and I would call these circumstances corruption.
The banks have become bankrupt way before, but they had been collecting money from Holland and Great Britain through these ISAVE accounts, and when everything collapsed, these debts became the debts of the Icelandic public, which is completely unfair. And if we think about it, this whole banking system is incredibly stupid. I don't understand how this can still be going on. I think if Europe would have any sense, they would close down the banks and start all over again and say, if you're going to borrow 1 krona, you have to have it. You cannot just invent it.
At the same time, they owned the media. So we were in a situation, you know, that we were not being told the truth. The media it was not the thing what they were saying, but not what they were not saying, you know.
Everything is very hidden. It's very difficult to have real numbers about anything. It's difficult to have answers about anything. It was difficult when the right-wing government here and everything collapsed. And now with a left-wing government, it's even more difficult.
It's the system of having every 4 years the possibility to vote for different parties that turn out all to be more or less the same when they get into power. It's just totally not working.
Example, we are having people here standing in a food line. Why are we having that? And the finance minister, he was talking about almost 15,000 millions Icelandic crowns and put it into one small bank in Keflavik. The bank was bankrupt. Why didn't the finance minister just let this bank be a private-owned bank? Just went bankrupt. Why was he taking 15,000 millions from the people and put into this bank and having these people standing in food line? It's corruption.
During the protests, you know, people were generally very negative towards IMF, but now IMF is doing what they like to, and the government that was voted for being against IMF, they are doing what they want them to do.
politics. Politics. There are, like, when a system is the same system for decades, it means there are the same power people, the same power groups, families, and they don't want to change the situation.
I'm not saying all political parties are evil or bad, but I think what they do is they give people the chance to not think. You know, you just think, okay, I will put my axe here with this hurt people and trust them. And it's not a great idea, because we have to think by ourselves, you know. And if you just decide to outsource your participation in society and democracy to other people, you are betraying your society, I think. You know, so I think they become little mafias, unfortunately, and they start just thinking about how they can maintain themselves and how they can maintain more power and how they can get their people to the right places and stuff like that.
I'd like to vote some other party which they haven't seen, just anything else other than the old political parties, or they would turn in an empty vote or wouldn't want to vote. The parliament has had, they haven't even reached 10% trust. About 9% of Iceland trust the parliament. In a recent poll, the majority of Icelanders thought that the elected officials in parliament were looking more after the interests of the banks than the homes or citizens in general.
We are not good enough consumers, and that has to do with general consuming and also democratic consuming. People tend to forget very quickly what the political parties are about and what they have done in the past. They're sticking with them like football teams, like fans of football clubs, and that's really something that we have to learn not to do.
You ask a politician, he doesn't know what he's being asked about, but he's willing to give you some answers. The answers are many times just pure lies. And they're just spinning up things just to keep the power place. They just go to their own party meetings, and people who come to their party is people who are in the party. And that's just a little group there.
I've seen lots of good people with good intentions.
Icelandic media doesn't talk about this. And I'm saying to people, this is no surprise to me. The Icelandic media does not talk about what's important for us people. They talk about what's important for them as owners, as greedy people. People who are power hungry. People who are running after money. They don't care about this. They want to silence this.
You know, they are not only taking the property from us, they are not only privatizing the banks, etc., you know, making it all this financial religion, but they are also taking the language. The politicians, the financial people, the lawyers, they were speaking a kind of a specific language, and they were ruling us with the language.
Freedom of information is gradually being chipped away from us, and we don't really know because it's done in such a way. I mean, like in the UK, you have super injunctions, you have out-of-court settlements, and the out-of-court settlements means that the news will never be told about, for example, unethical criminal behavior of the big corporations, and of course the corrupt politicians and the ties between these two entities. And the super injunctions means that if you as a journalist are placed under super injunction, you cannot tell that you can't tell the story, which is super censorship.
Nú rétt fyrir fréttir nálguðust fjölmennar.
Asking people to do like video blogs and showing them online and connecting to the technology and why shouldn't the people of Iceland who pay for all this, why shouldn't they be on some sort of a committee deciding what should be on television? Why is it just some random politically appointed people who choose that? I mean, sometimes night after night this is such shit, American soap operas and really bad stuff.
You're not going to change the world unless you change the way you do stuff. You as an individual, you have that responsibility. If you know about the crimes of Coca-Cola, you can't possibly allow yourself to buy Coca-Cola. Many people say, oh, we can't stop using Amazon or PayPal or Visa or whatever because then we can't do things as we used to. Well, I got news for you. We're not going to be able to live in a world the way we used to because there's not going to be any planet left for the next generations. We're all going to have to do our part in changing our ways.
Has been for the last years, then what we're going to be seeing is we're going to be seeing blood on the street. We're going to be seeing people killed. We're going to see real civil war. And I think that the people in power realize this, but they're still not, they definitely don't want to let go of any of their power.
There's only one thing that will scare the people who are in power enough to let them think they don't want to be in power anymore, and that's the threat of revolution. I'm sorry, but that's the only thing that worked here. It's like saying, okay, if you don't obey us, we are your employees. We are the one that pay your salaries. You are there as our servant. If you don't understand when we want you to leave or when we want you to do certain things, you will have to go. And if you don't want to go, we will carry you out. Simple. But that's the way it is.
You can start with your two empty hands and just with a lot of force and people who are willing to volunteer. It is doable. You can do it in Portugal, you can do it in Rome, you can do it in Greece and everywhere.
We need to be thinking like what sort of society we want to be in like 50 years and in 100 years, not just like, okay, how can we put out the biggest fires now, but we need some sort of awakening.
It's very decisions in some areas than the right-wing parties, and this is just a distraction. And the right-wing parties are doing the same. I mean, they're building huge systems. That is absolutely not right-wing from my cookbook. So maybe practical anarchism is the order of the day, where you at least provide the people with the tools and the inspiration to participate in their own societies and to understand that the society is them. It's not an external force, it's us.
It's not a wool, black hood. That's not freedom. Freedom has the face of a human being. That's very clear to me. And a smiling